In this video, we're going to talk about the general patterns of organization that we use in the body of a speech. And first of all, I can't overstress the importance of organization. Organization is what brings coherence to your speech. It's what makes it make sense. It's what makes it convey information. Without that, it's just a confusing jumble of ideas. One of the things I read in our text is that having a well-organized speech is one of the chief ways that you can avoid or overcome speech anxiety. When a speech is well organized, you will be able to remember what you're going to say better. And so, organization is the key to both a memorable presentation, but also to avoiding or at least coming to grips with the speech anxiety that we've talked about a couple of times already in this semester. The name for this organization that is used in our textbook is strategic organization. It means putting a speech together in a particular way to achieve a particular result with a particular audience. It means you are crafting the ideas that you're going to present in such a way that you will shape the message that you are going to communicate to the people that you have to communicate to. It's a very important concept. Now, there are a number of organizational methods or patterns that you can use. Part of which one you use is going to be determined by the type of topic you're doing. Certain types of organization lend themselves well to certain types of speech, to certain subject matter. None of these organizational patterns is better than the other one. This is the best, this is less best. But it's a question of finding what's appropriate to your topic, what's appropriate to your purpose. Perhaps the most common organizational method is the topical order, a method of speech organization in which the main points divide the topic into logical and consistent subtopics. The topical approach can be used in almost every type of speech we're going to be doing this semester. In your informative speech, in your persuasive speech, even in your commemorative speech. Also very common is the chronological order. Chronological order is a method of organization in which the main points of the speech follow a time pattern. This type of speech is very common whenever you're discussing a historic event or a social event, anything that you want to talk about because of a beginning, a middle, and an end in time. That's how you're going to discuss it. That's the chronological order. Now, very similar to this is the spatial order. A spatial order is a method of organization that follows a directional pattern. Say you were speaking about the Statue of Liberty, and you wanted to organize your speech around the architecture of the Statue of Liberty. Maybe you would begin with a discussion of the pedestal and what is there when you first enter the base of the statue. Then perhaps you would want to talk about the steps and the supports that hold the statue up. And finally, you'll be talking about the observatory on the crown of Liberty. That would be a spatial order. You're looking at the architecture of something and talking and following it in a certain direction. Maybe you're talking about a park that you've gone to. Maybe you're a theme park, and you talk about the different things you see as you go through the park. Those are spatial order. Causal order is a method of organizing a speech in which the main points show a cause and effect relationship. This happens, therefore that happened. Very similar to the causal organization is problem-solution order. That's a method of organization in which point A introduces a problem, point B offers a solution. Now, after you've chosen the organizational method that's appropriate or most appropriate for your topic and for your purpose, then you've got to take your subject and divide it down into main points. Main points are simply the major points that you develop in the body of your speech. Most speeches, for the time length you're going to be using in this class, will have anywhere from 2 to 5. Aim for about 3. My dad was a Baptist preacher while I was growing up, and The old saw about how you put a sermon together was that a sermon was 3 points and a poem. And I think that's kind of apt for what we are talking about here. If you have many more main points than 3, it's going to become harder for your audience to digest what you are saying. 2 to 5 is acceptable. 3 is the optimum number. That's what you need to be aiming for. It seems we've had tips for everything in this unit, and so we're going to have tips for preparing your main points as well. First, keep your main points separate. There should not be an and in your main points because each one is a separate item. You're dealing with a separate topic, a separate subject, a separate aspect of your topic. Next, it's helpful to use similar word patterns when you are phrasing your different main points. I remember when my dad was preaching, he would do all kinds of similar word patterns in his main points for his sermons. Perhaps each of his main points began with the same letter. It was alliterative. Maybe it was an acronym. The different points spelled a word. Or maybe they were just worded similarly. The textbook gives us an example of one like that with a speech on the topic of karate. Karate gives you strength. Karate gives you stamina. Karate, and it does something else. Keeping those word patterns similar will help your audience and you to assimilate what you're saying and to follow along more effectively. And finally, you've got to balance the amount of time devoted to each of your main topics. Now, this doesn't mean that the time is spread out perfectly, exactly divided evenly between each of your main points, but it does mean that they are comparable. Maybe you spend 20 to 30 seconds on one main point, 40 seconds on another main point, and 30 seconds on your final main point. They don't have to be all the same, but they need to be comparable. You don't want to have 10 seconds on one, a minute and a half on another, and then 5 minutes on your third. That's a very unbalanced speech. You want to keep it comparable in length for each of those main topics because they are supposed to be equal in the organization of the speech. Now, these main points of your organization have got to be tied together. There's got to be something that gives a sense of continuity and flow. And the thing that does that are connectives. Our textbook talks about 4 different types of connectives or word structures that are used to link ideas together. The first are transitions. A transition is any word or phrase that is used to signal that one section of the speech is over and that we're moving. We'll give several examples of these transitions, just reading from the text. Now that we have a clear understanding of the problem, let me share a solution with you. Or, I have spoken so far of Cesar Chavez, the community organizer, but it was his work as a labor leader that truly etched his name into American history. And finally, keeping these points in mind about sign language, let's return to the sentence I started with and see if we can learn the signs for "you are my friend." Each of those sentences contains words that signal that one part of the speech is over and a new part of the speech is about to begin. Internal previews are statements in the body of the speech that lets the audience know what the speaker is going to discuss next. Internal previews are obviously very important parts of introductory paragraphs. We're going to be talking about the introduction and the conclusion in the next video lecture, but they can be used within the body of the speech as well. And similar to internal previews are internal summaries. And this is a statement contained in the body of a speech that sums up what the speaker has just talked about. Again, it can be used in the conclusion, but it can be used within the body of the speech as well. The last type of connectives discussed in our textbook is a signpost. A signpost is a brief statement that indicates where a speaker is in the speech or that focuses attention to the key ideas. Signposts would include language like, the first cause of this problem is, the second cause is, the third cause is, or finally, let me discuss. All of these indicate where you are in the overall scheme of things. When you hear somebody say, finally, you know they're beginning to wrap up. It's like in conclusion. And so these are signposts, and again, they're part of what holds it together. It's the connectives that hold the body of the speech together. Now, let's summarize real quickly. I guess that would be an internal summary. Tonight, in this lecture, we've talked about organizational techniques. We talked about chronological, spatial, topical, causal, problem solution. We talked about the idea of what main points are. And then finally, we talked about connectives, transitions, internal previews, internal summaries, and signposts. That's the body of the speech. Now, in the next video lecture, I'm going to talk to you about the introduction and the conclusion of the speech. Perhaps the two most challenging parts of the speech for you as a writer and as a speaker. Look forward to talking to you about those. Bye.